Opposed to fight James McSweeney in the past. It was last year. It was for my European title because he got the international title on the CFC and he got it for nothing. I'm supposed to fight Marcus Hip, which I beat in 11 seconds, and the fight never really happened. It wasn't James's fault. Marcus Hip pulled out, but James got the title and he didn't even fight. And I wasn't really happy about it because I always had to fight for my titles. So I asked my managers to sort out the fight with James McSweeney. The fight was on, the posters was out, the tickets was sold, but James McSweeney just turned around. He's turning in states. He can't make the fight. He didn't really have a real reason not to make the fight. He just didn't make it, and now he's fighting in the States, trying to get into UFC. But hopefully I'm gonna be getting soon if I keep winning, you know. So I maybe meet him over there, you know. Would be nice and easy fight for first fight in the UFC.
Do you know what? He can join the queue. It's no different. I mean, I've had people call me out my whole life, and that's cool. That's what we do. I'm a fighter. That's what I expect. I don't expect to be a fighter at this level and not have people want to fight me. It's an honour that someone wants to fight me. It doesn't bother me. But for someone like Carlos, he's an up and coming kid. He's a big fish in a very small pond with CFC, and he was with Alan Mortlock. And if he remembers rightly, it was me that was the first person to help him with his training. Alan brought him to me and asked me to help him and school him, and we were bringing him through slowly. And his first ever fight he had, I was actually backstage. He called me backstage to give him confidence before his fight. But the thing is, he's now surrounding himself with all these people that are blowing smoke towards him. He forgets where he came from, and he should remember that he came down to the gym and saw me once, and we trained together, and I helped him out training. I never had a problem with Carlos, but the thing is, it's like now he's got this comfort blanket, whereas if you want to call somebody out and we fight for the same organisation, I fought for CFC, I fought for FX3, I fought for Cage Rage, I fought for the company that Cage Rage went over to, I forget the name right now, Ultimate Challenge UK. I fought for all of these, and he never once called me out then. And now all of a sudden, I've been in the UFC now for 1 year, and after 6 months of being in the UFC, he now calls me out. And for 3 years we fought for the same organisations in the same area of London. We knew each other from Titan's gym. We used to see each other and shake hands. And now on the internet he wants to call me out. Then cool, let's fight. It's not a problem. It'd be great to fight him, you know. But to be honest, I think he needs to look at what the UFC are looking for. And he's got to realise that UFC do steroid and drug tests, eye tests. And he's got to look into his and how clean he's going to be before he comes in to fight me. I'm completely natural. I've been fighting all my life. He's got to ask himself, is he the same thing? But let's wait and see. Let's see if he gets picked up by the UFC. If he does, that'd be great. I'd love to fight him, no problem. That's what I do. It's like people say I'm running scared of Carlos Ramola. I've had, who have I fought in my? I've fought Malcolm McDonald, the K1 champion, American K1 champion, beat Mirko Krokop. He beat Stefan Lecco. He beat the list of who he beat goes on and on. Musashi. He beat Ray Bonyansky. I fought him in the K1 and beat him. So you think someone of his K1 level is the top of the cream of the top of stand-up fighting? I would fight him, but I'm not scared to fight someone like Carlos Ramola, who's had like 4 fights against 4 nobodies. It just makes me kind of laugh. Like I fought Mustafa Al Turk, another Abu Dhabi champion, fought in the UFC, fought against Mirko Krokop. He fought great guys. I fought him too. Why would I be scared to fight Carlos Ramola? I went into the Ultimate Fighter house and fought 3 of the best heavyweights up and coming in the world without a second's notice, on 1 day's notice, without even knowing who they was. I fought them, and I also fought Darryl Schoonover for the UFC, knocked him out. But yeah, all of these people that I fought, but Carlos is such a huge, big name, and he's such a great fighter that I'd be so scared to fight him. Come on, man, it's not even real. If he wants to come and gets to where he wants to get, come to the UFC or wherever you want to come to, and we'll fight. It's not a problem. But don't talk on the internet and say silly things that's disrespectful, because we're all fighters here, and you should have a line of respect. And it's done certain ways. Go through the right legitimate reasons, ask to fight people, and then when the contracts get signed and the money's being paid, then we can all fight and then we can all learn out of it. Until then, just shut up. I've been fighting since the age of 5. I started Thai boxing as a kid, and I just trained through this, burnt off a little bit of energy as a kid. I was hyperactive, and then I turned more serious when I got to about 12 or 13. Ended up moving over to Thailand, trained in Thailand from the age of 14 upwards, and I turned pro at 18. I started doing kickboxing and K1 rules. Carried on with my Thai boxing career, went over to K1 eventually, and now I'm in MMA for the last 3 years, and now I fight for the UFC. When I fought Patsko, it was a real, it was one of my first, it was like my, oh no, 5th or 6th fight. It was my second fight for Cage Rage, and I had some personal problems go on at that time, and I had no excuses. I lost the fight. He was just a big dude. We know he was a big wrestler, and I didn't stick to the game plan, and like I said, I had some personal problems go on, and he beat me, and he was like a north and south choke. The guy weighed like 420 pounds or something ridiculous like that. And to be honest, I will never be able to get myself in that position ever again. Yeah, and if he was ever in the UFC or in a position where we could fight again, then I would love that fight. Same with Neil. Me and Neil had a good fight. I hadn't been training any real groundwork when I fought Neil Grove, and we had the first round. I was very close to submitting him at the end of the first round. The referee stopped the fight. Look, I thought it was for him to finish the fight, but it was just for the end of the round, and then he beat me by ground and pound. So fair play to Neil. He beat me, and as it turns out, I mean, I don't regret any losses I've ever had in my career. And the people I have lost against, like I lost against Mustafa Al Turk. The next day he got a UFC contract. I lost against Neil Grove. The next day he got a UFC contract, and now both of them are not in the UFC no more. So as it turns out for me, if I won that fight, maybe I would have been in the UFC earlier, but I wouldn't have been ready mentally, physically, or technically. So as it's turned out, it worked out for the best, because with them losses I seeked out my weaknesses, which was wrestling and whole understanding of MMA. And I went over to America, started training under Greg Jackson and the whole Jackson team with Rashad Evans, Nate Marquardt, Keith Jardine, and the list goes on. Shane Carwin and George St. Pierre. I mean, the best of the best is in our team right now, and I've been training with these guys day in, day out for the last 2 years. So I've highly improved, and now I've got a UFC contract, and I'm at a place where I'm growing. I know my place on the ladder right now. I'm realistic in my goals, and I just take one fight at a time, one punch at a time, and make sure that I keep my record clean as possible. I mean, to be honest, records before you get to the UFC don't really matter. It's like some people come to the UFC, like my last guy, Daryl Schoonover, came to the UFC 11-0, undefeated. I beat him, but my record was had losses on it. So who's a better fighter? It doesn't really mean what your record is. It means who you fought and who you lost against. And even if you have lost, as a fighter, you pick yourself up and adjust them then losses and come back and make sure they never happen again. And I feel in my career that I've done that.